Micah Parsons isn't one to shy away from controversy, and this time he's got his sights set on the referees. In a recent podcast episode, the Cowboys star linebacker sounded off on the Kansas City Chiefs' narrow 26-25 win over the Bengals, questioning whether the officials handed the game to Mahomes and his squad. Was it a fair call, or is Parsons raising a valid point? Let's break down everything you need to know. Dallas Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons recently stirred up controversy with his take on the Kansas City Chiefs' 26-25 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Despite the Cowboys' recent struggles, including a heavy 4-4-1-9 loss to the New Orleans Saints, Parsons took to his podcast The Edge to share his thoughts on the officiating in the Chiefs-Bengals game. Parsons suggested that the referees might have favored the Chiefs with some questionable calls. Parsons expressed his opinion candidly, stating that while both teams were on the receiving end of various calls, it seemed like the Chiefs got the upper hand in crucial moments. He emphasized, however, that teams can't rely on officials to decide the outcome of a game. This comment resonates with many NFL fans and players who often feel that referees play too large a role in high-pressure situations. Parsons' remarks about the officiating have only fueled the ongoing debate surrounding the influence of referees on the game's outcome. The most controversial moment, Parsons pointed out, occurred late in the game when the Chiefs were facing a critical 4th and 16. Patrick Mahomes threw an incomplete pass intended for wide receiver Rashee Rice. However, the play was flagged for pass interference, giving the Chiefs a fresh set of downs and positioning them within range for a game-winning field goal. Kansas City kicker Harrison Butker capitalized on the opportunity, nailing a 48-yard field goal to give the Chiefs the win. For Mahomes, it was far from his best performance. He threw for just 151 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but it was the late-game heroics combined with the controversial call that allowed the Chiefs to sneak away with the victory. For Bengals fans and even neutral observers, the pass interference penalty has become a focal point of discussion, with many feeling the call was too favorable to the Chiefs. While Parsons was vocal about the officiating in a game that didn't involve his team, it comes at a time when the Cowboys themselves are facing major questions. The 4-4-1-9 loss to the Saints was one of Dallas' worst defensive showings since Parsons joined the team in 2021. His own defense was shredded by the Saints' offense, and the blowout has raised concerns about the Cowboys' ability to contend in a highly competitive NFC. Yet, rather than dwell on his team's shortcomings, Parsons chose to turn his attention to the broader league. Parsons' podcast, now in its 2nd season, has become a platform for him to share his unfiltered thoughts on all things NFL. Since its inception, the podcast has been a mix of game analysis, personal stories, and even some off-the-field topics. Last year, he surprised many by discussing the relationship between pop star Taylor Swift and Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, even suggesting that NFL players should aim to date high-profile celebrities like Zendaya, despite Zendaya's well-known relationship with actor Tom Holland. But while some of his comments may seem lighthearted or even playful, Parsons insists that his podcast is not a distraction from his duties with the Cowboys. He's been clear that he knows how to separate his off-field ventures from his on-field responsibilities. In a recent interview, he pointed out that everyone deserves time for themselves outside of their professional obligations, and that his podcast is just one of the ways he enjoys his free time. However, not everyone is on board with Parsons' takes. His close friend, Houston Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud, recently called out Parsons for what he called terrible takes during an interview. Despite the playful jab, Stroud also made it clear that he has nothing but respect for Parsons as both a friend and a player. Parsons' comments on the Chiefs-Bengals game have added another layer of intrigue to his growing reputation as both an NFL star and a media personality. His ability to dominate headlines with his bold opinions mirrors his dominance on the field, where he remains one of the NFL's most dynamic and feared defensive players. As the Cowboys look to regroup and move past their recent struggles, Parsons' leadership and playmaking ability will be critical to the team's success. His comments, both on and off the field, continue to capture the attention of fans across the league. Whether discussing officiating controversies or sharing his thoughts on NFL pop culture, Parsons is cementing himself as one of the most talked-about figures in the game today. In the end, Parsons' message was clear. While referees may influence the outcome of games, no team should ever rely on them for a victory. It's a sentiment shared by many in the league, and it highlights the razor-thin margin between winning and losing in the NFL. As for Parsons, his focus remains on helping the Cowboys bounce back from their tough loss and leading his team through the challenges ahead.